Welcome back. In this session, we are going to talk about the most important concept, targeting the right audience. Targeting the right audience can save you time, money, and a lot of heartache as well. Let's look at it in more depth. Okay, now when we talk about audiences, if you targeted all kinds of people for your product or service, one, you're going to spend in a lot of money. Two, you're going to put in a lot of effort as well. But you're not going to see the results that you would choose or you'd prefer. That's because it's talking to everybody, which essentially means it's talking to nobody. On the other hand, if your content is focused on a very specific group of people, also called as a niche audience. If your content is targeting a very specific niche, a group of people, which actually represents what you are looking for. For example, a group of people who are interested in content marketing. Now, this training would appeal to them. Right? That is what a niched audience is about. That way, the content that you put out, the communication that you're doing will be effective because it's very targeted and it's targeted to a specific group that's actually interested in what you have to offer. So the bottom line is to understand that a targeted right audience is so much more powerful and so much more effective for your business than looking at a wide range of audiences. May not work as well for your business. So be aware of that. So let's understand how to really come up with a targeted audience. How do you really find out what's the group of people that you need to capture? Now, for this, I would suggest an exercise which will define the customer persona. Okay? Now, this process is called defining a customer persona. It's as if the content that you're creating, whether it is a written blog post, an article, a how-to, or a video tutorial like this, it's as if I'm creating this content keeping one person in mind. That's you. I am doing this video training just for you. And who are you? I define your persona. That's what a customer persona is about. So a customer persona can take into account many different things. So let's talk about the first thing in this list, and it's called demography or demographics. Under demographic comes the age of the person. So for every product and or service, you should clearly define your target audience's age. Let's say my potential customer and his or her range is anywhere between 22 to 45, right? That's just a number that I came up with, but you can actually do the research and find out who could be your potential customers and what could their age be under demographics as a category. Next, it's about the gender. Are your customers mostly men or women, right? So you actually write that down. Then you look at the family background. Okay, if you were to sell a product that caters to the entire family, maybe the way you communicate will be very different from the way you were to communicate if your product were to reach out to an individual, for example. Then the educational background. Now, what would the prospective customer's educational background be? Again, it's all to pinpoint and make your communication as effective and customized and targeted to the right audience. And last but not the least, you might also want to consider the income of the person. You know, if he or she can afford the product or service that you have to offer. Okay, so that's what demographics is about. A quick recap: demographics is all about reaching people that fit into this bucket of different factors that you want to consider. One is age, 2 is gender, 3 is educational background, 4 is family background, and 5, of course, it's about the income. All these can help you define if that is the right target customer and create content as if you're talking to that one individual. And then we'll expand that list and see whoever falls in that category, so that the content that you put out and the communication that you intend to convey reaches that audience specifically. So you understand demographics is one of the ways to understand the right target audience. Now we move on to the next one, which is called interests. Interest is all about what is your potential customer liking? What does he or she spends time on? For example, hobbies, work-related stuff. It could be the cause he or she supports, any affiliations. What are his or her goals? You see, these things need to be really laid out in this section about interests. You really need to find out what that person likes, so that you can again talk to them in the language or use the words that make sense to them. Okay, as a part of targeting the right audience, we've looked at demographics, we looked at interests. Another part of the puzzle is called purchase funnel. Now in this part, it's about understanding what is your prospective customer struggling with. What are some of the pain points? What are some of the obstacles that's stopping him or her from accomplishing a goal, right? So that's what you need to understand as a part of this purchase funnel. You would also want to see what are the avenues of influencing that person. How does he or she gets influenced? Number 3, you're going to understand or know who their current providers are. It could be a service or a product or whatever. Understand who the current providers are. Number 4, you're going to understand what would be the role of that individual in the buying process. Is it a kid? If it's a kid, it's going to be the parent who is going to make the buying decision. So you might want to figure that out. And last but not the least, what words or what kind of communication would resonate and make sense to your prospective customers. So that's what you need to analyze in this stage within targeting the right audiences, right? So we've looked at demographics, interests, and now the purchase funnel. And the last part of this puzzle in the right audience targeting is about values and fears. Your job as a content marketer is to understand what are some of the likes and dislikes of that person. What are some of the values? What does he or she like, your potential customer likes? For example, it could be a really quick service, good quality solution to a problem. That's what any customer would look for, right? Next, it's about what are the fears. What is stopping the user from buying your product or service? It could be a high price, an expensive product or a service, or it could be a poor value proposition, either one of them, right? So first of all, understand what he or she values, like what does he or she look forward to from a product or service. The fears, what are some of the things that turns them off? Those are the 2 things that you would want to keep in mind. So by ensuring that your messaging is tailored to really add value, in the sense talk to them about what matters, and hopefully your product or service also solves the problem that they're afraid of. Maybe your pricing is very reasonable. Whatever the case may be, understand your customers' pain points and then customize or tailor your communication and offer in such a way that it resonates and makes sense with your target audience. So that's what this is all about, targeting right audience. So that brings us to the end of this session about targeting the right audiences. How do you do that? 1, you look at the demographics. 2, you look at the interests of the people. 3, you look at the purchase funnel perspective. And finally, we also looked at the values and fears of your potential customer, your target audiences. In the next session, we are going to dive deep into mapping your communication to each step within that purchase funnel. Don't miss out. Stay tuned.